Hey, we're live with just me and Red Squirrel. How's it going, everybody?
Hi.
This is episode 27 of our award-winning podcast series that doesn't really have a name other than
We
Seattle's
are the
Angels
Seattle
podcast.
Angels, and we are such important people that almost nobody could make it today.
I Yes, I'm Alex Magnet and he's Red Squirrel, and together we are the only important people in Seattle's Angels because nobody else could be here.
Well,
Yeah,
we recently put up our last review round, didn't we?
we certainly did to rousing success.
We had 11 whole comments. Only
I
three,
know it's
only
that's
about three of which were from us.
that must be some kind of record. Uh, wow. Yeah. No. Anyways, so oh, thank God you were on the last round. Oh my God, I was worried. So you can at least talk about the stories. Take as much time as you need.
Okay, let me just pull out my thesaurus here. I'm gonna need some big words to take up all this time.
Okay. The first story, by the way, was Pinnacle by Cool Story Brony.
Pinnacle, yes. That was an interesting story.
Okay. All right.
It takes an idea that has been done quite a lot by now, probably
Okay.
because it hasn't actually been addressed in the show yet. Is what's Rainbow Dash gonna do once she actually gets in the Wonderbolts? Because what's funny about Rainbow Dash is that she's of all the ponies, she's pretty much the only one who hasn't actually achieved her lifelong goal yet. Like of all the main six, Twilight's become a princess. Fluttershy, as far as we know, has no goals in life except the
It's just to sit around and be a doormat, I guess. I don't know. Who cares? It's
yeah.
fucking Fluttershy.
Rarity has done all kinds of things. She's gone to Manhattan. She's rubbed elbows with famous important ponies. Yada yada yada.
Do ponies have elbows?
What do you call the bend in their forelegs?
I wouldn't. I don't know. I would call it a knee.
Would you? Because they kind of use it like an elbow.
Well, I think this. You know what? You keep going. I'm gonna go do some investigation real quick.
Okay, yeah, that'll be our topic after we're done. Is what exactly should we classify pony anatomy as? Should it be like? Should their forelegs be arms, or should they be like legs that they use as arms?
It's, to me, their limbs are as dexterous as you need them to be, or as clumsy as you need them to be. They're very, they can kind of do whatever you want them to do. I've never really thought of them as being like rigidly, because I mean that'd be like impossible to write anything if they were, you know,
Yeah,
rigid.
and we can't forget that infamous scene from season one where the sleepover, look before you sleep, where Applejack is holding three marshmallows on a stick and one hoof, and yet there are no visible grasping appendages with which
Yeah,
to
it
hold any of those
just
sticks.
kind of floats there.
Anyway, Pinnacle. Rainbow
Oh,
Dash
yeah.
has made it into the Wonderbolts in this story. She made it into the Wonderbolts years ago, and this is a story about what happens when the charm starts to wear off, and because when you reach the top, the only place to go is down, unless you just keep going up into space. I mean, there are a couple stories of Rainbow Dash going into space. You can find them if you look for them, I'm sure.
There
But
was a story about Pinkie Pie going to space, which I loved.
yes, didn't she go to the moon or something?
Yes, she went to the moon because she wanted to meet the cheese ponies. It's one hell of a fic.
Well, this story is absolutely nothing like that. There are no cheese ponies in
That's disappointing.
there are no cheese ponies in the Wonderbolts.
Oh, not yet.
Not yeah, not
No,
yet.
not with that attitude, there won't be. Too racist.
Uh, Wonderbolts need to become equal opportunity
They
employers.
do. Where's their affirmative action?
I know. I mean, seriously, not allowing Earth ponies on their team. What's wrong with them?
I believe they're called mud ponies.
Hey, we don't subscribe to that.
Hey, that's our word. Anyways,
Anyway, the
Jesus
story.
Christ,
The story is
Pinnacle.
about Rainbow Dash joining the Wonderbolts. I've said that already like 3 times.
A few times, yeah.
So it's about her kind of coming full circle, basically, because it's a character study about what she wants when she's got what she wanted before. And she finds out, well, this is cool, but it's not the way things used to be. And you could probably guess that she starts thinking about her friends back in Ponyville and all the fulfillment she got from living there because,
Sure, yeah.
back she may be a Wonderbolt now, and captain of the Wonderbolts, and got groupies and fame and money and all kinds of amazing perks. But in Ponyville, she had friends,
That's
friends who she saved,
true.
friends who she saved the world with on a regular,
Multiple times.
multiple times. And there's really all like that's really all I can say about the story because that's pretty much all that happens. Is Rainbow Dash being very introspective and
Just kind of like, man, this sucks. I kind of wish I was back where I was
yeah,
because
as introspective as Rainbow Dash can be.
I love writing Rainbow Dash because you can just be so flippant about everything.
Yes, and she's actually a lot more thoughtful in this story than I thought she should be actually
Yeah.
because uh, Rainbow Dash basically flips between this is awesome and this is lame. Those are those
That
are
could
those are
that
her
could pretty
two those
much
are her two moods.
that could describe her entire life.
Yes, one long series instead of mountains and valleys, she has awesome and awesomeness and lameness.
Awesome and not awesome.
And uh, well, what did I say in my review? That I
You
can.
apparently compared her desire to be on the Wonderbolts as a desire for ho-hos.
Oh yeah, yes. It's kind of like when you get a craving for something nice and sugary or like a beer or something. Whenever I drink beer, it's never as good as I thought it would be. Like
Really?
when
Because like
maybe it's because I always pick bad brands.
that could be your problem. Because like I'm having a beer right now and it's about just as good as I expected it to be.
Well, maybe it's because I always expect more out of beer. I have unrealistic expectations for my beer. Like I really enjoy Dr. Pepper, and when I first started before I started drinking beer, I was like, you know what? I bet beer tastes like Dr. Pepper.
It does not.
It's
No.
I bet it's nice and tasty, and you get a good sugary jolt out of it, and it's gonna be awesome. And I
Yeah, a
just
lot of sugar in beer.
and then I actually drank the beer, and I'm like, this isn't as good as I thought it would be. This is
Yeah, yeah. Beer is an acquired taste, and like, I mean, I can't like, when kids go to parties and shit and drink beer, like
yeah.
nobody actually likes it there. They're just drinking it to be cool. Like it takes, I don't know, probably a good like year or so to actually start liking beer.
I found that I usually like lagers.
Oh yeah, lagers are fantastic.
Yeah, I've had several lagers that I like, but yeah, but the thing to sum up this story, Rainbow Dash wants a cold one. She goes out and gets it, and she finds out it's just a Coors Light instead of like Dutch Grolsch or something. And she
And
finds out that
that's
yeah,
and that's
and
Pinnacle in a nutshell.
that's Pinnacle in a nutshell. Moving on to Tarnish, which
Ah,
is
yes.
yeah,
The
it's
infamous Tarnish. It's not infamous
well, it's infamous in our circle.
for very specific reasons.
We don't even really have circles, do we? We just have circle.
It's
'Cause
more like a it's more
people
like a
always refer to
trapezoid.
people always refer to circles in like the plural sense, like there are several social groups that
Oh,
talk about this kind of thing.
yeah, no, I mean our circles are more like trapezoids, and there's like half of one.
Half of a trapezoid.
So it's like a line with another line touching it. That's what we are. That's if we could sum up Seattle's Angels in like one sentence, it'd be a line with another line touching it.
So it's kind of like how everyone is only 12 degrees away from Kevin Bacon. Well,
That was
everyone,
6 degrees.
everybody is 0 degrees away from Seattle's Angels, but everybody within the Seattle's Angels
Is
is
180
is
degrees?
180.
Wait, hold on.
Well, I failed geometry, so.
Yeah.
This also
I'm actually still in elementary school, so I don't know. I haven't been to geometry yet.
well,
Anyways, tarnish.
I think we've just been tarnished by
Uh,
that.
I actually read this story though. After the whole kerfuffle.
Yes,
I,
somebody who shall not be named did not like the fact that we picked this tarnish over another tarnish. The other tarnish I did not read, but you
I
should read
did.
this tarnish.
It was not great.
Not great. Well, this one was Tarnish by Kitsune Risu. Was actually a very good story. It's very thoughtful, much like Pinnacle, but in a much more I don't want to say developed way, but like it feels more like Kitsune Risu knew exactly who Silver Spoon was in this story.
Right? Yeah. No. I mean, he seems to have a very clear
Yes, he had a very clear
idea.
idea of what he was going to write.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and Tarnish is about Silver Spoon, obviously. She has this thing where she follows Diamond Tiara around because apparently she's not a very smart child. And
I'm
she
not a smart pony, but I know what love is.
she
I think
loves.
that was her.
Does Silver Spoon love anything?
Being a bitch.
Yeah, yeah. That is her cutie mark. So
It is.
what is it that the
She
fandom
was
has
born with a
decided?
silver spoon stuck up her ass.
um, I thought we were gonna say she was spoon fed, but that works
Hmm.
too. That works too, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
but this is basically a story about Silver Spoon actually becoming a little bit more independent of Diamond Tiara.
Yeah.
Instead of being the beta bitch, she becomes the well. She just decides not to be a bitch anymore, and that's simplifying it by quite a lot. But
Yeah. Well, it's because she talks to Pinkie Pie, which I don't know, man. I mean, like I like that story, but Pinkie Pie and it was like I don't know. It just did not feel like Pinkie Pie at all. But that's me.
yeah, Pinkie Pie is has a part in this story. But before that, let me talk about what happened
Yep.
before that.
Yep. Go for it.
Um, Let me just reread the story real quick. What I like about this story is that Silver Spoon wrestles a lot with her conscience. It's not like there's not a whole lot of external factors going on that like force her to change. It's actually Silver Spoon being intelligent enough to recognize that there's something missing in her life, and she
Right.
realizes that there's something she has, and she's so she decides to do something about it. So she goes out and gets ice cream at Sugar Cube Corner because it's what you do when you have problems in life.
That's what I do.
Yeah, and
I go to a fictional eatery and get ice cream.
I get advice from a hyperactive pink pony. So
That's
yeah,
all I
see,
do.
it works for Silver Spoon. It'll work for you.
Yes. Kids, you got problems? Go talk to Pinkie Pie.
Now, Seattle's Angels, we give story reviews and we give life direction. And so she goes to Sugar Cube Corner and has a talk with Pinkie Pie. And Pinkie Pie, much like Rainbow Dash, was a bit too thoughtful in Pinnacle. I think Pinkie Pie was a little too, I guess, smart in this story. She's whenever Pinkie
Yeah,
Pie does something smart, she's never direct about it at all. And
yeah, no, no, no. That's what I mean. Pinkie Pie is not stupid by any means, but she's also not like she's never very serious. And even if she is serious, it's usually like while joking. And in this, she just went straight up serious, and it was kind of weird.
yeah, it's kind of like a little bit of Pinkamena was leaking through there. And she gives Silver Spoon the title. She gives Silver Spoon the title drop. She talks about a spoon that is tarnished and how it just needs to be polished and given a little love, and then the spoon will become shiny and useful again, and people will want to eat off of it, which really takes the metaphor to weird places when you
It
think about
does.
how young Silver Spoon
It
is.
does. Yeah. Yeah, that is a little bit weird now that I think about it more.
Tarnish is actually a giant metaphor for prostitution, I guess. I don't know.
I think you're
And
right. I think that's where it was going. Yeah, that was Katsuna Risu's goal. It was a story about prostitution, child prostitution.
child prostitution.
You know? Wait, wait,
Or,
wait,
or, or
wait, wait, because then this is leading to, if she's tarnished, nobody's gonna want to have her as their prostitute. So they want her. See, now it's getting a really weird place.
what are we doing with our lives?
I don't know. You're the one who brought up child
I
prostitution.
don't know where that came from. Well, we'll just reverse that, scratch that, and reverse it. And basically, Silver Spoon decides to become a bit of a better pony, and that's about it. That's It's a slice of life out of Silver Spoon's life, and it's about her improving herself.
Yeah.
But though I feel like I'm not selling the story very well, but
I mean,
it's written very, very, very well.
it is. It is. It's written technically well. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I thought it was pretty good. I just wasn't like in love with the story or anything. But I mean, the fact that I even bothered to read it, even though it wasn't part of my round, if you know me at all, should be um, enough to make you want to read it, because fucking I don't read anything, and this was
There,
enough to interest me into reading it.
what I really
Because
like is
because
that
because in it, Diamond Tiara, I mean not Diamond Tiara, Silver Spoon is sort of hinted at being not like retarded, but she's got some sort of weird like mental issue.
Diamond Tiara,
No, Silver Spoon.
Silver Spoon. Oh, how so?
She seems to be like she's got some sort of like psychological trauma where she's like talks to herself all the time in her head, and she's always like she speaks very simply. Like whenever there's like thoughts, whenever you see Diamond Tiara or Silver Spoon's thoughts, they're always like really simple, and she's just like,
Yeah, yeah. The terseness of the writing actually, I think, very much fits Silver Spoon because being Diamond Tiara's hanger on, she's probably not going to have a whole lot of complicated thoughts. She just thinks things and as they come, you know. Very short, very direct, very much, and not leaving a whole lot of room for, you know, nothing because she doesn't think about anything else. And that's addressed in the story in an interesting way because I think the way it's written kind of foreshadows what'll come later because it's clear that she's intelligent enough to think about certain things, but she just doesn't. She just her brain just doesn't go to those places,
right,
and at least not till near the end when she's actually decided to do something with her life.
right. But anyways, so that's Tarnish. We don't. I don't
It's a
think I
good
really have anything else.
story. Go read it.
Yeah, definitely. Plus, it's Kasuna Risu, who's, I mean, we've featured a few times before, and
Yeah,
he's pretty awesome.
yeah.
Just a good writer all around. Anywho, then we got Going Out with a Bang by Prak.
Is that his name? Oh, it is. Prack. I didn't remember it being that simple. Anyway, going out with a bang is this is the second story that deals with fame and fortune and how a pony doesn't really want it anymore. Um, it's so in that sense it's like Pinnacle, but it's
Right,
not like Pinnacle at all because it's a bit more. It's a lot short. It's the characters in it are not focused on as much as Rainbow Dash. It's given a bit of a broader perspective, if you ask me. Because in Pinnacle you're stuck inside the head of Rainbow Dash, and going out with a bang, it's basically all original characters, so they all have to be given a little bit of screen time and a little bit of development. And
right,
when you spread it out like that over such a story that is already very short, in my opinion, it kind of weakens it. Like I think if this had just been Long Jump and we're stuck inside his head and we only see what he thinks and does, then the story would have been made a lot stronger as a result. Because and it also doesn't help. This is also a very simple story. Basically, this pony named Long Jump is a daredevil, and he's
hmm
like the evil Knievel of the pony world.
I was
He
gonna say is the Evil Knievel.
yes. Well, maybe he should. What's a ponified version of Evil Knievel?
Medieval. Oh my God! Imagine a medieval Knievel, and it's like
Ah. Yeah.
He's a he's a medieval like stuntman who just like fucking jumps over palisades on a horse and shit. That would be amazing. Why is that not a thing?
Or like being he uses a pony drawn chariot.
Yeah.
Are you not entertained? And so he's a
Oh, there
daredevil.
is a medieval Knievel. That's a thing.
Really?
I found it. Yeah.
In real
It's
life?
on YouTube. There's a song called Medieval Knievel.
Well, that'll be our outro for the evening.
Yeah, if only we could do outros. I fucking wish.
Uh, okay. So long jump, he's medieval Knievel of the pony world,
Yeah.
and he doesn't want to be famous anymore. Just for whatever reason, he's burned out. He doesn't like being famous anymore. But he does want to go out with a bang. Title drop there, and he decides to jump over Ghastly Gorge, that big old canyon full of giant monster killer eels, and he's gonna do it on roller skates. You can tell this is gonna end well for him.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I'm liking the idea of it already. Sounds like a Johnny Bravo skit.
Well, it doesn't quite go that direction, which in hindsight actually would have probably made for a very entertaining story. And when is somebody gonna write like a Johnny Bravo pony? I haven't really seen that
I
except for that
don't.
DeviantArt comic.
Probably never.
Yeah, I wonder if a whole lot of bronies have even seen Johnny Bravo.
Well, maybe not. I keep forgetting how fucking young some of these people are.
I know, right? Like when I
So,
heard that like a third of the fandom was below the age of 17 or something,
oh my God.
and
When I
that
found
was
out,
and that was still like just one or two, that was still just like 2 years ago. So like
yeah,
apparently a lot of bronies started watching when they were like 13.
when
Crazy.
when I found out like half of our chat was under like 16 or 17, I was like, oh Jesus Christ.
I felt I
I
felt
didn't
pretty old.
realize. What? Yeah, I know. So did I. I'm not even like neither of us are old by any means, and yet suddenly we both feel old.
Just by comparison.
Yeah.
Well, you could probably relate to long jump in the story because he's feeling he's feeling the years starting to weigh down on him.
Oh, I
And
definitely am. I mean, Jesus, like I feel like at this point I'm well past my prime. I'm almost 23 years old. I can't keep doing this forever.
man, I'm 26. I'm
I
over the
know,
hill.
right? I don't know how the
I'm
hell you're still going.
I'm already going downhill towards the rocky crevice at the bottom.
You should already be like hit the bottom and then you're like valleyed back up by this point.
Well, I do spend most of my day just puttering around. That's what old people do, right? They
That
putter.
is that is they putter. That is the term.
And long jump.
Does shit.
Yes. He
And then
also, but Rainbow Dash does make an appearance in this story as well.
okay.
And
What does she do?
well, she basically provides a little bit of inspiration because she's
Okay.
just that awesome. She's been a fan of long jump ever since she was a kid, and
Makes sense.
she shows up right before he's about to make the jump and gives him a bit of a pep talk, and just basically tells him, "Hey, you may be retiring, but you still inspired me, and look how awesome I am." And
That sounds like Rainbow Dash, all right. Hey, you may be sucky, but look at me, I'm awesome.
everyone is awesome when they're standing next to Rainbow Dash. She just radiates it in an aura.
Yeah, a little
That's
bit.
what happens. That's what happens when she does her little tactical rain nuke. Instead of radiation, you just get awesomeness splattered all over the place. And but everyone is always going to be less awesome than Rainbow Dash.
Yes, fact. That is factual information. Rainbow Dash is by far the most awesome pony.
So
Well, obviously, I'm not I'm excluding Trixie from any and all best of lists because she's automatically top of every list, and then it's just like the rest of them are on their own separate list.
she transcends lists,
She does.
just like how
She doesn't believe in lists.
she doesn't believe in lists, just like she doesn't believe in wheels.
Right. to myth.
She doesn't need wheels to move. The Earth just scoots her along because
Right, it's kind of like in Futurama, how their spaceship like moves space around them.
I've heard of I've
Okay,
heard
well
of
that's what it does. In Futurama, their spaceship moves space around them. Trixie just moves the Earth around her.
that. Makes a surprising amount of sense given we're
Right?
talking about Trixie.
That's what I'm saying. There's a reason
And
why she's best pony.
yes. Well, you want to just spend the rest of the evening just gushing about Trixie? I'm sure you could.
Yeah, no, I could. Um,
But we still have a couple of reviews to go.
Anywho, so yes, are we done with the other one then?
Even Trixie has to take back burner reviews.
Are
Uh,
we done with going out of the bang?
yes, I think we are.
Okay.
Now the
So,
last one is we saved the best for last, and
did we?
I'm not joking because his father's yoke was my favorite story out of all four that we read.
Would you describe it as your favorite story of all time?
Um, no.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that it wasn't that good,
Well,
but pretty good.
if it was, then it probably would be reviewed by much more respectable avenues than the
We
Seattle
are
Angels.
we are the most respectable.
We have a slot on the site blogs, man.
We have a surprising amount of respect, or we garner a surprising amount of respect, which is, I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like we don't deserve it.
That's probably exactly why we do, Alex.
Maybe that is. We're so humble. We should be less humble.
But then we wouldn't deserve the
Exactly.
respect
No,
we did.
because we don't deserve to be so respected.
So,
So we need to be less humble, so we get down to this amount of respect that we actually deserve.
we should just stop talking about it because if we actually become aware of how humble we are, then it becomes just like a self-defeating thing where we're like, "Oh, I'm so humble." Oh, no,
Oh,
you're
I'm
not
more
because
humble
you're
than
talking
you.
about how humble than you are.
We're so fucking humble.
God.
Yes.
His father's yoke.
Yoke. What a
Whoever wrote
great
this story,
yoke.
TSH, that is his name, and he deserves to be. He deserves every bit of pride he
Drawn
can
and
wring out of
quartered?
this story.
Oh. Or whatever.
Uh, didn't they abolish that like 400 years ago?
I think it was longer than that.
TSH does not deserve anything except the greatest accolades ever,
Okay.
but not of all time.
Okay. But ever. Which is, the
Yeah,
same thing as all time.
yes. He deserved to just go back to the beginning of time, but beyond that, no. And his father's yoke is about Big Macintosh. And what sets this story apart from a lot of stories about Big Mac is that the fandom kind of has this idea of Big Mac being a very thoughtful, introspective kind of pony, right?
Well,
Either that or
he
being
does give off that aura with how, deliberate it is when he speaks.
yes, he seems to know exactly what he wants to say when he says it, and it's usually just yup or no. But they're very well timed. The timing is everything.
He could not be more well timed. It's excellent timing.
And this story actually gives us a reason for why he might be so thoughtful and introspective. Because a lot of other stories just assume that he is because why he's Big Mac. That's just
Because fuck you, that's why.
yeah. I mean, are you gonna argue with Big Mac?
I am not. He'll probably punch me in the face, and then I'd
Then-
die because
Yeah,
his punches they're really big hooves.
I swear, people do not talk about how strong Earth ponies have been shown to be in the show.
They're like if I
Like,
remember somebody
just like six of them pull an entire train. Do you realize how heavy a train is? And it only takes
No,
six
and
Earth ponies?
and we can't forget that train isn't an empty train. There's like, probably 50 or 60 more ponies on top of that train. So like that's something special. That's pretty fucking strong.
Unless ponies don't weigh that much because they're just a bunch of marshmallow fluff.
They are
I mean,
made of air.
who knows? I mean, since if friendship is magic, then why can't ponies be like just giant balls of fluffy, positive energy or something?
If friendship is magic, then ponies are marshmallows.
Yes, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's okay. Just wanted to make sure that we were clear with that.
That's what your next fic needs to be. Ponies are literally marshmallows. That's the title.
That's I don't even know what I would do.
Well,
Like,
just like have like a field report of some interdimensional explorer being
Bob,
like,
I'm standing here in front of all the ponies in Ponyville, and they are literally marshmallows.
I don't know why I find that so funny.
Uh,
Day 33, got really hungry. Tried a pony, found out that they were actually marshmallows.
yes, day 37. I've run out of food, and I've started eating ponies. Uh,
They tried to stop me, but their magic is all marshmallows as well.
they only shoot marshmallow beams, which really just feeds you more.
Uh, so before we fall into that black hole,
Marshmallow beams not quite as powerful as eyebrow beams.
not, uh, yeah. You guys should also read Alex's Princess of Eyebrows fic.
Oh God, I
It's
can't
pretty
believe
amazing.
that story. Like
I don't know how we give you the
it was,
dumbest ideas and then you write them and then you become famous off of them. It's like
I that thing got on EQD so fucking fast. Like I almost feel bad about how quickly it was accepted. Because I'm like, I'm sorry, all the other people that have been. Because like I've been there, I've waited for like 3 months to hear back, and this one I heard back less than 24 hours later. And he was like, "Yeah, your story's hilarious. It's going up." And I was like, "Are you serious? Really? Okay, sure." It was,
you heard it here. Alex is on the fast track to success.
yeah, evidently.
Weren't you on like a panel or something?
I'm on the BronyCon panel, or I will be.
The upcoming one?
Yup,
I need to actually go to a con. Where is the next
some
BronyCon being held?
Baltimore.
I can't go there.
Aren't you in Denver?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be coming up to Denver pretty soon. I think we
Well,
should we should
we'll
do something.
we'll make a con. We'll make our own con.
But let's make our own. But anywho,
So
uh,
to just completely cut off that line of thought and go all the way back to the story, which we were discussing, God knows how long ago. His father's yoke. Big Macintosh is remembering when he talked to his father because a lot of the show is basically confirmed. It's canon that Applejack and Big Mac's parents are dead,
they're
and
so
they
dead.
probably died pretty young. And so a lot of people take that to be very tragic and stuff. But
Oh, very
mom
boo-hoo.
died first in this story, and dad is left behind to take care of the apples before he also kicks the bucket. And so he's talking to Big Mac about how he, you know, about what being a stallion is like and what being a grown-up pony is like. And what I love about this story is that nobody does anything perfectly. Like the dad obviously is not the best dad in the world. Like he just comes up with a bunch of anecdotes from his father and then his father before him, and like one was a criminal and the other one did
What?
something with zap apples.
Excuse
That
me?
wasn't. Well,
Criminal?
he brewed like illegal moonshine and got
Oh,
involved
excellent.
with like
There's not enough Prohibition era pony stories.
yeah, he brewed illegal moonshine and got mixed up with the pony mafia or something.
Oh my
And
God, that sounds awesome.
yeah, and so his dad is like is basically saying, hey, our family isn't perfect, but we're family, and we're basically the only ponies we got in this pony eat pony world. And Big Mac also isn't perfect because at the beginning of the story, he pretty much hates his little sisters, or at least he hates one of his little sisters in particular
What,
because
Applejack?
Apple Bloom
Oh,
is his
what the fuck? Why? What's wrong with Apple Bloom?
because mom died giving birth to Apple Bloom.
Always, of course.
Yeah, and he also doesn't like Applejack because he just doesn't like any pony,
Well,
right?
Applejack kind of is a bitch.
She can be
She,
like we basically came up with that eyebrow story because of just how damn sarcastic
she's
she can be.
really fucking sarcastic. I was I miss Twilight being really snarky because I was watching, like season one when I was writing those episodes for Scootaloo Dies a Bunch, and I had to rewatch all the episodes to find places to kill her. And watching them, I forgot Twilight is really fucking sarcastic through like most of the first season. She's just like somebody says something like, I think it was Applejack says something to her like, "Oh man, you better watch out, Twilight," and she's like, "No, really?" She's so fucking sarcastic, and it's awesome, and I miss it.
I don't know how Applejack took up her mantle. I
But
mean,
I'm okay with it.
yeah, it kind of fits her somehow. And but anyway, at this stage in life, Big Mac just basically hates everyone and everything because mom's dead and farm isn't doing so well. And also his little sisters are really annoying because they screw around with mom's hat and and
Oh, so AJ's hat is mom's hat?
yeah,
Okay, I gotcha.
I believe so. It was hard to tell. It was kind of hard to tell who was who in this story because no,
Eh.
they never. I don't think they ever actually name the mom.
Whose accent was more consistent?
Everybody's, and
It
that
was
really
no,
made
it was a joke.
that was what made it so hard because
It was
everybody.
a joke
Oh, okay.
because Apple Bloom is very much not consistent with her accent in the show.
Well, she's still growing into it, I guess.
Michelle Creeper is like, I mean, she's been doing it for fucking like 4 years now. You'd think she'd have like got that shit down.
Well, I don't know. Kind of like how Princess Luna sometimes slips into rarity.
That is that is very true.
I mean, did anybody hear the song she sang? She sounded almost exactly like Rarity when
I
she
I
sang.
thought I was the only one who noticed that, but yes, she was literally Rarity.
And then everybody voted her as best singer anyway because Princess Luna. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And when Princess Cadence was, you can't even talk to me about that. Princess Cadence was objectively the best singer in that song.
I think I know. I mean, I still go with Celestia. Celestia's such an amazing singing voice.
She does. It's just in that
Like
particular song, I think
like
Cadence was.
Celestia's ballad. That shit gives me chills like every time. It's so fucking good.
Yes, Celestia's Ballad is right up there with the season 2 finale song, in my opinion.
Oh,
Or
it's so excellent. It's such a great song. Uh, but
it's like
anywho,
Celestia is basically the pony who you would want to like sing you a lullaby when you're going to
which
sleep.
which is why I find it so funny to write Celestia as like somebody who's sort of what's the word? Like she acts the way I usually write Celestia is that and not that she's like Trollestia because I kind of don't like that. It's kind of annoying, but that
Yeah,
she's like always trying to mess with people but really sucks at it sometimes, and like things accidentally backfire and she's like, oh shit, I did not see that one coming. My bad. I don't know. Maybe
basically the exact opposite of the Xanatos Gambit Celestia we usually see.
pretty much. I always like in in the two well not the two most recent because now I wrote Reinhard, but before that the other two the last princess stories that I wrote, um, Trixie and Applejack. I made it like written as if Celestia seems like she has some sort of a plan, like she knows what she's doing, but underneath it she's sort of just fucking winging it, and things just happen to work out.
That's actually how I actually thought of a story idea that kind of ran with that.
Oh yeah?
Like I don't know what the actual story would have been, but at the end of the story, when Twilight saves the day and stuff, uh, Princess Luna would be talking to Celestia and be like, "So did you actually know that Twilight would actually do all these things and save the world?" And Celestia's like, "I had no idea."
Fucking I don't know, man. I don't even pay attention anymore. But yeah, no, I mean, I think that's just kind of how I like to write all my characters in general for comedy stories. Not if I'm being serious, then I actually write, seriously, which is only like maybe two stories ever. But whenever I'm writing my comedies, I always like to have all of my characters be act smarter than they are, but not like smug smart, just like they all think they know what they're doing, but they're all idiots.
That's kind of how people act when you think about
Well,
it.
that's like almost exactly the point. Is like specifically, I always write Trixie as if she's super super confident, but incredibly incompetent. Like she cannot do anything right, but she's never gonna believe that she's wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean that's exactly what you see in
And
the show.
Right. I think the only character that I write who's legitimately smart and knows what she's doing is Twilight, and she just cannot believe how stupid everyone else is around her. That's how I write Twilight.
Yeah, that's
She's so fed up with how stupid everyone else is, and she's the only one that's got it all together.
it's lonely at the top. That's the theme of this week's review.
Yes.
It sucks being best pony because everyone else is horrible compared to you.
Yeah.
That is the burden Trixie must bear.
Yeah.
She bears it with the
She's
noble poise and grace that she is so well known for.
what speaking of noble poise and grace, I think the most like if I could pick one 3-second clip from the show to encapsulate Trixie's character, it'd be that scene where she's running away and trips on her face. Like that it so perfectly encapsulates everything that she is to me. You
Yeah,
know? And
yeah.
Magic Duel it's it's so perfect.
She can't even run off into the sunset, right? She just
Right after apologizing and everything's going well, she's like, I nailed that. Oh snap, and just pop right in her face. Excellent.
so we're still we I'm not done talking about his father's joke.
Oh yes. Continue then.
Um, while it was hard to kind of tell who exactly was talking to who at times because they don't, there's a few places where Macintosh is thinking about a her or a she, and it's never
Okay.
clear whether he's thinking
Uh,
about Apple Bloom, Apple Jack, or the Apple Mom.
do you think that's on purpose or just sort of an accident?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think we're supposed to I
Sure.
think we're supposed to be able to figure out who it is,
Right. It's not supposed to
but
be like really ambiguous or anything, but
I couldn't.
okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and but don't let that uh, detract from the story itself, which is it's a very well written story, and I really like this kind of idea where a dad talks to his son and tries to, show him the ropes, and
Yeah, no,
nobody's quite good at what they're doing, but they're doing their best.
I like that idea too. Of course, if I was gonna do it, I'd probably do it where like I mean, it sounds kind of what like his father's yoke is like though, where it's like his dad isn't, you know, isn't super wise and all knowing. He's just kind of like I'm gonna do the best I can.
Yeah, he's a guy with 3 kids and his wife just died, so you can't expect somebody to be perfect in a situation like that.
Right. I mean, that's kind of how I. That's the kind of that sounds like a story I would like. Is what I'm getting at. So maybe I should read it.
Yeah, there's this one paragraph that I just came across that kind of encapsulates what the story is, what the lesson that the dad is trying to pass on is, and it's this. Son, his father said, all our family, they loved each other so much, and they loved their friends. They did everything they could to keep them safe so they could grow and love one another too. It doesn't matter how they did it or why, they just did. Your mama knew that, and I was too stupid to see it myself, but I ain't gonna let that happen to you. And so yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically a story about Big Macintosh becoming the Big Macintosh that we know, going from this angry, misguided little kid to the next man in the family in the house. And that's what I give it the most points for, is that it takes an original look at Big Macintosh and why he is the way he is, not just
Right.
like
I think. Well, I think one of the first fics we ever reviewed was a story called Roots, and it was about Big Macintosh, and it was sort of the same thing along the same lines where it talks about basically how he became to be the person that he is, or Pony or whatever. And it's one of my favorite stories we ever reviewed. I fucking love the shit out of it. It's incredible, and it sounds a lot like his father's yoke.
did I read that story?
I mean, probably unless you've read it like when we reviewed it, because you weren't part of Seattle's Angels back then.
Well, it says I clicked on it, so
Oh well,
close enough.
close enough. It's a great story though.
Well, I'll slap it on my read later list. But yeah, his father's yoke. It was my favorite story of all the 4 that we reviewed, and in my opinion, the best. So if you haven't read it, definitely put it on your read later list, and then actually read it. Because I
Yeah.
know so many people are just like, oh, I'll put this on my read later list
This
and
is
then
why
they
I don't
never
even
come back
keep
to
a
it.
read later list because I know I'm not going to use it.
I don't either. I just read a story, and then
Yeah, if I'm
if
going to
I
read
want
it,
to
I'll
read it
fucking
again,
read it.
if I want to read it again, I just click that gold star next to it. Because I
Yeah.
mean, I know the favorite is supposed to be like, oh, this is one of my favorite stories, but when you talk about the general quality of fan fiction, a story that makes you want to read it again is as close you're going to get to an incredible story.
Pretty, pretty much. Um, I think finding a story that's worth reading twice on FimFic is it's a special thing because it don't happen very often.
Yeah, like
It's
even some of the pony classics, like you remember it used to be called Ponies Make War, but now it's called The Immortal Game.
I did not read that. Nope.
No, well,
You remember who
even
you're
though
talking
people
to here? I don't read things.
don't read things, you just
I did read a lot. Well, not even when I read stuff, I didn't read all that much, and mostly what I read was Trixie stuff.
I read freaking everything. I don't read quite as much now. I still read everything, but not as much of everything as I did
How's that
before.
possible?
Don't ask.
Okay, I won't.
And even the Immortal Game, even though people consider that like well, some people consider it a pony classic. I could personally only stand the second half of the story. The first half was just kind of forgettable. Well, with
Right.
the evil Twilight arc and all that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that'll do it for reviews. We managed to take up a whole 57 minutes.
Hey, that's pretty good for reviews. Usually we take like 20 minutes and then we're like blah blah blah. Blah. Um. So so Red, people were requesting that you review the write-off fix live.
Now,
Yeah, why not?
uh,
Are you doing something? You busy right now?
well, does being in the stream count?
Hey, I
I can't
what
stream right now. I'm busy doing a live stream.
what if I read the stories off to you and then you can not all of them, just I'll pick like one or two. And
Where's the
then
write-off site? Okay, fine, let's do it. Fine. We
okay,
don't have anything else going on. Let's do this
we
live
literally
reviews right
don't
now.
and oh look at that. Somebody posted a in the chat a heart swastika. I think that's Ariane's cutie mark.
Her cute mark.
Whatever. Hey, 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 hey. I do what I want. Um okay. So I'm gonna give you your pick, Red, based off the stories that are here. I want you to pick the one that sounds appealing to you. I'm not gonna do the 7,000 word ones because fuck that, that's way too long. So instead, you've got Benevolence, The Case of the Cowled Changelings, a Rebel Angel, A Taxing Situation, Brave Front, The Masked Mayor of Canterlot, or Never Stop Fighting.
I'm kind of torn between Rebel Angel and Never Stop Fighting because those sound like the least original of all the stories that we've seen. Like
What was the other one? They not Never Stop
Rebel
Fighting.
Angel and Never Stop Rebel Angel.
Oh boy, Rebel Angel is. Oh, I really, really hated that story
Is it one of
so
those things
much.
that you call inexperience in air quotes?
Well, the thing is, like, it's technically well written, and like Present Perfect loved it. I hated it so fucking much.
Well, read it and then we'll see what happens. Right?
Okay.
You're supposed to read it, right?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna read it. It's where is it? Yeah, there we go. It's the thing is, it's technically well written, but fucking, it's just like it's so goddamn angsty. Like in my
Well,
review,
yeah,
I described
just like the title, it's
it's
like those
rebel.
movies. It's like those
Ah,
movies
God,
that come
it's
out that are like Never Back Down, or you just got
yeah.
served, or something like that.
Well, the thing is, like in my review for it on the write-off thread, I described it as being. I said that the phrase "too edgy for me" sums up the entire story for me. Like that is pretty much it.
All
But
right,
anywho, let's
begin.
okay. It starts off with a quote. Every pony has fears. Every pony must face them in their own way, but they must be faced, or the nightmares will continue. Princess Luna.
You gotta be
She
good.
did not say that ever. So, anywho,
Quotation by no princess who ever existed.
Yeah, just like what's her face? Marie Antoinette never actually said let them eat cake. That was not a thing. Anywho, so uh, do you remember what you said to me when we first met, Morningstar? Jin asked, leaning up against his figure and pressing her snout under his chin. You said it wasn't proper, and then 2 evenings later, here we are again. The two of them sat at the back of a large crowd. The inch-deep water of the Kale rippled around them at the slightest movements. Masked by the shadows of a scaffold, the glint of their slit eyes was the only evidence they were there at all. The circular earthen walls of the Saris stretched out and around to encompass them and the community as a whole, bottling them up and reaching towards the cusp that seemed so impossibly far away.
Well,
But still,
what's a sorry?
I don't know. It's a made-up word. It's spelled Tsairse. Saris.
Sorry.
The weird thing is that like you'll see it later on, but like that versions of that word are used seemingly interchangeably all around. Like it's called a Saris, but then later on the race of whatever they are called the Sar. And no, no, there's a Tsar, Tsar or whatever, and he seems to be the leader, but they're called Sarazions. So it's like I don't understand. It uses a lot of different whatever. But anyways, I'm just gonna continue. But still, the evening moon crept over the hole above and shone down majestic light on all of them, giving the brilliant silvery aura to the walls and the drapes on the tops of everyone's head. The, the Tsair could be seen on his small platform in the middle of the gathered crowd, his voice hearty and strong, as he addressed them all. Some Zerzions watched quietly while others were in idle conversation, simply enjoying one another's company. The clinking of clay mugs and the occasional laughter could be heard over the chatter. Small fires plodded around and gave the Kale the same vivacity of day, but with the cool safety of night, and they also gave fresh color to the Sair's graying fur and his fangs glistening with every word he spoke.
The warm vividity.
That is what it says. I am reading this word for word.
Like,
But they all went practically unnoticed to the two sitting the furthest away. How could I forget, Morningstar said, and he nuzzled her in return. The evening communion was about to begin. I thought it unfortunate and downright wrong for there to be no room at the front for a mare like you, and that you should be stuck for the next couple hours by my side. I think we both knew there was plenty of room to sit elsewhere, she teased. But you know why I chose to risk my reputation and my very name to come back here, to be with you. The Sayer continued on with his obligatory spiel, highlighting community triumphs and tragedies for the past semi-annual, while making promises and predictions about the next, boosting morale regardless of who was paying attention. He made sure to look over every one of the Cerzions, from every stallion and mare, elder and infant alike. Then finally, he passed his eyes to the scaffold in the distance, and his features briefly turned downward before moving on. Morningstar caught a glimpse of the gesture before turning back towards love in his embrace. Because you really like making your father angry, he said, and hummed. She giggled. Not even the Ser could get in the way of what makes the Series so special. Friendship, community, tradition, he said, and for a shared instance, they held their breaths. After the pause, he added, I don't think
if
I've
that
ever...
word ever comes up again, you have to sing the song.
What song?
Tradition.
I don't know what
Or even just the song, or even just that part of the chorus.
I don't know what are you talking about?
Just pronounce the word tradition like tradition.
Oh, okay. I will. I don't think I've ever thanked you, actually. She smiled knowingly. For choosing you. For giving me a chance, he said. Then he kissed her on the tip of her nose. I've always been an outcast, and in many ways I still am, but ever since you bothered to talk to me, ever since you found the moxie to withstand my presence, everyone else has come to not block me from all life. I honestly thought you were possessed when you wanted to sit by me all those evenings ago. Evenings is capitalized for some reason. I don't know why. It was the evening moon, she said, her smile softening. She glanced up towards the cusp where the same evening moon continued to crawl over them. It wouldn't be long now before its image filled the space completely. She sighed happily and rested herself against Morningstar's chest. She said, It's no secret it gives life to all the Ceres, or that it's a symbol of hope and longevity, but we mustn't forget that will only continue if we, like the stars beyond, live in harmony. So as long as we all love each other and don't hate, I just know our future will be forever bright. I see. This is what I'm saying. Like it's so. There was another pause. The noise of the crowd was starting to dwindle, and Sayre's words continued to register them all. He gave her a curious look. So you walked up to me not for my sake, but for your own? Jin giggled again and kissed him on the chin. Perhaps at first. But things quickly evolved from there, didn't they? I wouldn't change any of it, not even for a touch of the evening moon herself. You're one of a kind, Morning Star. I love you. He wrapped his leathery wings around her in an embrace and nestled his head against hers. I know, he said, and I love
Oh,
you.
they're bat ponies.
I apparently they never actually say, but it seems to be that they're bat ponies. With those words, everything finally settled down. The rest of the crowd silenced themselves, and all attention was now centered straight on the Sayre, right as his speech ended. Then he murmured something unintelligible and lifted his hooves towards the cusp. The evening moon finally filled the entire cusp, lighting the whole Ceres to its fullest. At last, the evening communion could start, and so the Sayre began his sermon to all. And as was tradition, he led all the Sayre's ions in prayer. It's weird because he's referred to as
He's
as
referred to as
this
the
he's
Sarah
referred
and
to
this
as the Sayre and also called Sayre. Like I don't understand. I don't know, man. It's just such a weird story. I just don't like it at all. But I'm gonna continue
and then
for
what
your
was the
sake,
prompt? Masks or something?
huh?
What was the prompt? Masks or something?
Beneath the mask. I don't know how this at all relates to it, but maybe you can figure it out.
Okay.
What do you wish for? Morning Star asked. Just smile. Jin smiled as if she were a breath away from answering when it caught in her throat, and she slowed to a stop, her face twisting into a curious thought as Morning Star stood right beside her. Right outside of a massive hollow, draped centimeters thick, hung over the entrance, certain on suppressing the harmful rays of noon. But it was night, so the Ceres were alive, and there were no rays to be had, so all the drapes did was muffle the chatter and laughter. Nonetheless, the voices of the Cerzions inside the hollow leaked through, blurred together, and drifted over their heads. One Cerzion walked out of the hollow with a clay mug in his hoof, blushing drunk, and he meandered on by the two off into the kale.
What's a
Morningstar,
kale?
what? I don't know. Apparently,
Like the
President
vegetable?
Perfect said he couldn't find the definition for it, so it sounds like a made-up word.
Because there's a kale that you can eat.
No, it's Cael.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Morningstar watched him go,
It's got a
seeing the
world where you
ambient.
have to give at least some clues as to what the words are about.
They just kind of use words like, yeah, you fucking figure it out.
So yeah, it's like apparently kale has something to do with water.
I don't know.
That's real specific.
Morningstar watched him go, seeing the ambient light of the stars above shimmer in the ripples, the gentle sloshing of the drunkard's hooves. Wait, his hooves are sloshing?
In the kale.
Yeah. Oh, I got you. Right, so it must have to do with water. You're right.
Yeah, I can figure this
You
story
figured it
out.
out.
It's
I
not
didn't.
pulling the wool over my eyes.
Became indistinguishable from all the other Cerzions milling about their nightly lives. Suddenly, Jin grabbed his hoof and pulled him off into the kale. He jumped forward to avoid tripping, withholding the urge to catch himself with his wings. Where are we going? He asked. He almost couldn't hear himself over the loud splashing they were making as they hurried across the kale. If Jin responded, he didn't hear. Her alabaster tail, I hate that word, tickled his legs as she led him to one of the many trees scattered around the kale. Its trunk sat a good meter above the shallow water, where its gnarly roots. I would think gnarled would be a better word there.
Yes.
But all right.
Well, it's gnarly roots.
uh, where its gnarly roots tangled with each other and dug into the ground. Like the whole body was sitting above a porous hill. Moss clung to the exposed roots, and small bushes pocketed the immediate area outside. He glanced up briefly at the branch to see if it was bearing any fruit tonight, but there was none he could see, or at least if it had, it was all picked up already. Jin ran straight up to the great tree, and after taking a pause to look around, she practically dove into a bush directly adjacent to the tree. Morningstar was yanked down and barely caught himself, and he was quickly dragged into the bush after her. He reappeared on the other side on a patch of dry dirt. He found he had to crouch or else he'd bang his head on the underside of the roots, and that's when he realized he was under the tree. The roots created a veritable cocoon that only let in let me start that over. The roots created a veritable cocoon that only let in the faintest amount of lights. Jin was on her stomach, peering through an opening until she was satisfied nobody saw them run under this tree. Where are we? Morningstar asked. Jin quickly hushed him and then said in a whisper, "Somewhere secret," she said, turning back around to face. Wait, she said in a whisper, she said?
She said in a whisper. She said.
That's what it said. It's then said in a whisper, "Somewhere secret," she said. There's two
Well,
dialogue tags.
right off, you could probably forgive something like that.
Turning back, yeah, I just didn't recognize it the first time until I actually read it out loud. Turning back around to face him, turning back around to face him. I found this place when I was a filly, and whenever I wanted to get away from it all, I ended up here. Is this where you run off to? He asked, glancing around the cramped place. The dirt suckled the water from his hooves. What? Sometimes she replied with a smile, but it's the secret. You can't tell anyone about this place, okay? Of course, he said, with a nod, but why'd you take me here? Because I want to tell you what I wish for, she said. She lifted a hoof as if to touch him, but hesitated. Even though we are together, there's still some things that just aren't proper. Things that definitely wouldn't be okay for the Ceres to know, let alone my father. See, now he's used
I don't like where
Ceres,
this story is going.
but now he used Ceres as if to refer to the population, when before they were the Cerzions, and the Ceres seemed to be the place that they. I don't fucking know, man. The words are just used interchangeably. But tradition is something Ceres keep very close to heart. And now it's Ceres. Like, that was the guy. He was the fucking leader, was the Ser. Whatever. Keep very close to heart. And it's no secret he's already allowing too much with us. Were he to know what I really feel, ... I understand. She chuckled. I know you do. But there's more I want to say, more I want to do.
No, 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 no. Is the story about to get mature?
It's not. It can't. The write-offs aren't mature, so it's not.
Okay. Just there may or may not be little children watching, considering how young bronies are. I'm an old guy, so everybody's young compared to me. So shut up.
I was just looking back at the Skype chat, and I read from Froggy, Alex is more beautiful than Ryan Gosling, but I read that as Ryan Goosling, which made me laugh pretty hard internally.
Right.
But anywho,
Are
Ryan
we ever
Goosling
going to
is
figure out why it's shameful for this person to love this other guy?
I don't remember. I think it's just because fuck you. That's why.
Because she's the daughter of some important guy, and that's.
I don't know. It's like it. From what I can tell, the guy doesn't have wings, and she does. So she's like a different race or something.
They just said that he has wings.
No, I thought it was.
When she pulled him towards the kale, whatever that is, it says he resisted the urge to open his wings to catch himself.
You're right. Wait, so maybe he has wings and she doesn't.
But
Either way,
they're all the Ceres.
I don't fucking know, man. I've like, this is the second time I've read this story, and I'm no more aware of what's going on than I was the first time. But anyways, she sat up and cupped her hooves over her chest. Her head was just barely brushing against the ceiling. We all have hopes and dreams, don't we? Every Cerzion, we live, laugh, and love. I'm sure we all dream big, beyond the limits of our imaginations even. But there are things that just, realistically speaking, could never be achieved. Morningstar inched towards her and delicately wrapped a wing around her. You're right, he does have wings, like some delicate flower. Jin's smiled, return as sincere as ever. Whatever, it's poorly worded. And she glanced down at the dirt and said, I'm sure I'm not the first to think this, but ever since I saw the evening moon as a young filly, I've always wanted to touch it, to reach out to our goddess and feel her tender caress. It'd be enlightening, you know? Morningstar smiled bittersweetly.
See, I never liked this whole bat ponies worshipping Luna.
I know. I didn't want to say anything, but since you brought it up, yes, it's stupid and dumb.
It completely undermines the canon thing that Luna had going. Because see, here's the thing: a lot of people don't. I've said this in a bunch of other streams.
I know.
But I'm going to say it again.
I want to hear it.
If this whole Luna rebellion thing, if Luna actually had thousands of ponies willing to fight and die in her name, then she would have had no reason for them to go and fight and die in her name, because her whole thing was that she was jealous that nobody loved her. It's like, She can't be Nightmare Moon because nobody loves her if thousands of ponies love her enough to go fight for her in this stupid
Right.
little.
It doesn't. Yeah.
The whole thing about Luna is that literally nobody in the world liked her.
Right, and that's why like I found stories that where like one person really liked her. I found those really appealing because it was kind of like, oh, there's one person who cares about her. But it doesn't make any sense if she's got a fucking army. When then it's just like the whole thing just goes out the fucking window.
Yeah. And then she has an entire race of ponies who
It's
apparently have been in hiding or whatever, and
the Snares
waiting for
Islands.
her return. I hate that explanation for bat ponies. I don't like bat ponies in general. Sure, they're
I thank God. I am so glad because I agree with you. They are the dumbest shit ever. They look cool, but holy fuck, I never want to see another story about them.
yeah. Nobody ever writes them well, ever.
No, and I'm not about to go write a Bat Pony story either. I just can't.
That's
But
that's the one thing that Alex won't touch.
I have my limits. I have my standards.
Shockingly enough. Anyway, keep going.
Okay. Uh, Morningstar smiled bittersweetly. We feel her grace every night, everyone. Even if the evening moon only comes every semi-annual, you know she's there every night. And in the end, when we move on, everyone gets to meet her. Jin snorted, stifling a laugh. Well, yes, I know that, but that's so. She rolled her hooves. So plain, so inevitable. When we die, there's no sense of wonder. Everything becomes known and eternal. But what I want is to experience that mortal wonder, that mystification. I want to touch the evening moon while I'm still alive, still breathing, still able to be confused. It'd be one heck of a journey, he said in agreement, a legendary feat. Though I must admit, I don't think that little wish is worth so much secrecy. I know I've dreamt the same before. That's just it. I want to touch the evening moon, she mumbled, turning her eyes further away. A second passed before she clarified. But I'd have to leave and go beyond the cusp, and for that my wish is for you to take me there.
Cusp of what?
I no, it's called a cusp. The cusp is where they were before. I know it's not the right
Cusp
definition.
of what?
It's called like okay.
So it's being used as like a proper noun here.
It's being used as a proper noun. Yes.
Okay.
It's not capitalized or anything, but they're like the same way that like a cave. It seems to be a cusp seems to be a cave, despite the fact that's not
Okay.
what a cusp is. Anywho, Morningstar jolted upright and banged his head into the ceiling. His wings snapped shut, causing Jin to flinch. He stammered, I can't do that. She shushed him. I know that, she hissed, and I'd never make you. I might be able to fly you around the Ceres, me muttered. I know it's just a typo, but that made me laugh.
There's a few pretty interesting typos here so far.
Me muttered. But even then, we'd be. I know, she said, drawing her legs in. You're not allowed to fly. Sometimes I do, he was quick to say, but immediately felt the pang of regret in saying so. Yet he continued in a whisper and said, in my hollow, sometimes in the noon when everyone else is asleep, I just like to hover bound between walls. There's not much room, but there's more than enough to get off the ground and move a bit. Not like that, though, she sighed. I know you've thought about flying through the Ceres. Goodness, I bet you'd be able to make it to the cusp. But I can't. I know that, she said. Tradition. Tradition!
Tradition.
Tradition!
Tradition.
Panic. Omens. Whatever reason my father comes up with to keep your grounded. I wouldn't put it past him to want to clip your wings, and I'm sure he regrets not having done so at birth. I mean, the rest of us don't have them. No Sarzion has ever. Oh, I got you. So that's his thing, is he has wings and nobody else does.
But do they all live
But
in a cave?
but fuck you, Red. That's why. But fuck you.
Sorry.
Uh,
My review of this story is just going to be a bunch of confused mumbling.
that's now you know how I felt. Except my review ended up being like, "What the fuck is this? This is stupid. It's so trite and boring. All the characters are dumb, and all the proper nouns are fucking retarded."
Okay, well, the train hasn't quite wrecked itself yet. We're off the rails now, but we haven't hit the ground and exploded, so keep going.
Okay. My mother fought hard to prevent that from happening, bless her soul. Morningstar glanced out through one of the slits in the tree roots, looking past the leaves of a bush. It's spelled leaves, by the way, and into the rest into the rest of the kale. The shallow water had lost its ambient, lightless black, and it was noticeably becoming quieter too. You're one of a kind, Jin said, and she snuffled, slowly turning back towards him. I feel bad for you. It feel bad for you, really. I think now, more than anything, all I wish is for you to fly. And I wish we could stay here longer, he said, gripping her by the hoof and pulling her into an embrace. She squeaked with surprise as Morningstar wrapped his wings around her and hugged her tightly. This cycle's ending and noon is coming, he whispered, nuzzling her cheek. I love you, Jin. You're so kind and selfless, but we need to go back to our hollows before the rays come. There's still a bit of time, she whispered back. I told you my wish. What's yours? He smiled in return. Mine's already come true. Oh, oh,
Condescending
oh,
tone
God.
intensifies. I don't want to be so mean to this story, but it's
It's just so fucking like it's so tropey. It just
yeah.
uses
I
like
mean,
everything.
and nothing makes sense. Are they in a cave,
I
or are they
I
in? Or because there's a hill
my
and there's a
understanding.
tree and there's a bush that they went into to look up at the moon, but then they're
Well,
talking about how they
because
can't get to the moon.
no, because it's nighttime.
Where are
It's
they?
I don't I somewhere. It doesn't ever say where they are.
And then
But my under
if they are all bat ponies, then how come none of them are like bat? They're more like cave ponies,
I don't fuck. Okay,
troglodyte
so
ponies that live underground.
I'd read a story about troglodyte ponies. My understanding is that they're basically like vampires and that they get burned by the sun, and that's why they have to only go out at night.
Why not just make them bat ponies then?
I think
Why?
they
Why?
are bad ponies,
But none of
but
them
it
have.
seems to be like some sort of really far past bat ponies, maybe before they got wings. Because as we all know, when things evolve, it only takes like a few hundred years, especially to grow something like wings. Those are pretty simple and not very complex at all. So you could
Wait,
grow them.
are you joking?
I am joking. That was being
Okay.
sarcastic.
All right.
Um,
I think this story stole a few brain cells, Alex.
so, anyways, traditions coming up again. By the way,
Tradition.
I figured I should warn you, Jin said, resting her hooves over the wooden railing and gazing up at the stars. My father got into a heated discussion with some of the harder traditionalists about us. They don't like that we're seeing each other. That's not exactly news, Morningstar mused, glancing down towards the kale far below.
Okay.
They stood right outside the entrance to his hollow on the relatively thin. By the way, there was a line break. I should have mentioned that we're in a different scene now.
Okay.
Um, on the relatively thin scaffold that wound around the inside of the Ceres like a screw, the incline was gentle and hardly noticeable because of the sheer width of the Ceres' diameter. Along the path, drapes hung over the entrances of every hollow, some larger than others, some closer to one neighbor than one before. Morningstar's hollow was near the topmost portion of the scaffold, and being so far from the kale, it hardly ever got adequate repairs. The wood panels of the floor were dry and often creaked. The trusses that held it up thin, and he always had the sense that the railing would pull right out without much force at all. It made him anxious to see Jin leaning on it so carelessly. He placed a hoof on her shoulder and pulled her back. Jin. She grabbed his hoof with hers and sighed. Slowly she turned her eyes towards him. I don't think anything's going to happen, but I think it might be best if we stay away from each other, she said, for just a little bit. I know, I'm heartbroken right now. Until they cool themselves down. He frowned and tightened his grip on her hoof, and so did she. Maybe we could talk to... There's nothing to talk about, she said. Their skulls are too thick for their ears, Morningstar. What?
Wait, repeat that.
Their skulls are too thick for their ears. One second. You just enjoy that for a second.
Okay, go on. Oh, are you gone? Hello? Oh yeah, he's doing something.
Okay, sorry. I was doing something.
Okay.
Did somebody join the chat? I thought I heard a fucking.
No, that was just me banging my head on the table, I think.
Okay. I could have sworn I heard a ding of somebody, but whatever. Uh, there we are. Their skulls are too thick for their ears, Morningstar. You shut up. I'm just gonna finish this. You know this. They'll never listen, and the only thing they'd change would be tighter restrictions. We aren't even allowed in each other's hollows, for goodness sakes. I don't want to be barred from you. I don't want to never see you again. It's okay, he said and pulled her near. It's not, she grumbled. Nevertheless, she welcomed his embrace. They fear you because you're different, and quite frankly, have something no one else does. You have wings, and in all reality, I think what they fear the most is that you leave the Ceres at any moment. Excuse yourself from this pit. I don't think I'd blame you if you did. As if I'd want to, he said, failing to hide a smile. I love you, Jin, and I'd never leave you or the Ceres behind. I'm as loyal to our goddess as any other Cerzalion, and not even the evening moon herself could drive me away from life and home. And honestly, I've always thought the cusp was a bit too far away anyways.
So he's
She
not gonna
snorted.
fly her there?
He will by the end of the story. Spoiler alert, sorry.
No, I was gonna say.
She
What an
snorted. You're too
asshole. He just said their only dream is to fly there, and he's like, no.
Yeah. She snorted. You're too humble for your own good, you know that? And you like to worry over nothing, he said. Watch, I bet you're exaggerating this whole thing more than it has any right to be. I bet my father's watching us now, she whispered. That was not a whisper. I don't ever get to see the cues until after I've already finished reading it. They
Okay.
paused, toying with the thought between themselves without ever saying a word. As one, they turned their heads and looked over the side of the scaffold. Down below, the Kale waters shimmered with faint reflections rippling around as Cerzaians walked to and fro. Others walked along the scaffold, going between the hollows or simply standing at the edge, much like they were, and making idle conversation with each other. But one particular section stood out where a small group of figures stood huddled together, gazing back up at them. The bright silver mane stood out from all others, and after another second, they quickly huddled back together and walked into the nearest hollow. And just for a moment, the ambient noise was noticeably louder. Jin sighed and turned away. I know my father will try to keep them at ease, but he's the Sare. I know it won't make much sway to him. It won't take much to sway him. A pause. I'm sorry, Morningstar, but I can't risk it. We'll be better off if we stay away from each other, if only for a little while. He said nothing and sat down, looking distantly out across the Ceres. Jin looked up and clicked her tongue. The stars were beginning to fade, and the sky was losing its darkness. It's almost a new cycle. Noon's coming, she said. I should get going to bed, and so should you. I know, Morningstar mumbled. His lips twitched, and he said, I love you, Jin. She giggled. I know, she said, and leaned in for a brief kiss before departing. Morningstar watched her go until she was out of sight. He continued to sit where he was until the walls became bright and a soft burning sensation fell on his head. And only then did he stand up and walk back into his hollow.
So they do get burned by the sun.
Evidently, yeah.
Makes
And they
absolutely
say
no sense whatsoever.
they say I love you like fucking every fucking 5 seconds.
So this story is
Uh,
basically Twilight?
yes, it is exactly Twilight. But anyways, I had to get
Yeah, I feel like we should apologize. No author deserves to be compared to that story.
But
Whoever
Twilight's
wrote
the
the
best
story,
part.
I'm sorry.
I don't know who wrote it, but I don't know. Anywho, Morningstar jumped awake in his cot, startled, and barely had the time to register Jin as she leapt into his hollow and threw herself on top of him.
Whoa.
Whoa. That was fast. His eyes were wide, and she embraced him tightly,
Talk about
burrowing her.
climbing to the moon, huh?
Hey-oh, burrowing her snout into his blanket over his shoulder. He tried to push her off, but his legs were stuck beneath her. What are you doing here? He yelled, awkwardly trying to scramble away, but her grip
I think that's pretty obvious.
was set like iron. His wings found purchase, however, and he was able to pull himself into a sitting position with her hanging by his neck. Are wings really that strong? Could they lift up a heavy-ass pony?
Well, we've
Like,
seen
if you
ponies doing like
push
wing
them,
lifts.
that is true. They do wing ups, which doesn't seem physically possible.
Like I think you see what's the name of that pink Pegasus pony? The background one.
There's a pink one?
I thought there was, but you see at least one of them like lifting weights with their wings.
That is true. That seems like not a good plan. But all right. Then the horrific scent of singed hair reached him, and he blanched. Jin! Not a second later, the drape that protected his hollow from harsh rays of noon flew open, and the cloaked figure burst into the hollow. Jin squeaked as the violent light flashed over them, doing her best to cover him. What the fuck? Another figure tried to enter, but first quickly pushed him back outside and hissed some words. He drew the drape close and removed his hood, revealing a short silver mane. Jin, the stallion began, was immediately cut off. Oh boy. She turned her head and barked, "No, father, I will not let you separate us." The Sare stamped a hoof on the earth and floor. "Jin, this is not up for debate," he growled. "The Ceres has spoken." And see, the fucking Ceres is just like everybody, but also the place where they live.
There's the place where they live. It's like a place name, an area name. It's like a general descriptor of where they are and who they are and what they are. It's the name of their leader. It's the name of their leader's name.
It's a lot of
And
things.
it's like the
This is,
council
what,
that decides
this
stuff.
is what I was talking about in the beginning when I said that Ceres is used like interchangeably with so many things where it just loses all meaning. But anywho,
And he's the only one that can get burned by light. The guy
apparently
Morning Star.
I think they all can. That's why they all live underground or whatever.
But then the but then the
Oh,
her
that's right.
dad
They
just
came in
burst.
through
Her
the.
dad just bursting
What
through
the fuck?
the story keeps. There's so many twists and turns in this.
That's a word for it. Anyways, no, she cried. No, they haven't. The voices of a few narrow minds does not outweigh hundreds of Sir Zions. If you want to hold a vote, fine, the Sarah grumbled, but I can guarantee you everyone will see the same. Because they're afraid of being called outcasts for wishing different than what our people would have adhered to for centuries, she sniffled. That's a sniffle? Oh no, then it's a, like, period, she sniffled. My bad. We all have different colored coats and eyes and the same teeth and pray to the same goddess. Why can't you just let us be?
She sniffled.
Our tradition has not changed for hundreds of semi-annuals, ever since the evening moon birthed us into her earth. Into her earth.
Hundreds of semi-annuals.
They
Why even
refer
bother to divide that?
it so 50 years.
For many fifties of years.
It's many. Oh no, I guess no, because that'd be 6 months. So for hundreds of semi-annuals would be like, so it's been like 50 years.
Uh,
Anywho, I will not let us risk our values because of some minor altercation. He frowned. I've allowed this to go on for too long already, and I see the error in doing so. You become corrupt by this anomaly, he added, waggling a hoof their way. Love is not corruption, she said. Morningstar's wing drooped, and he tried to fight her shaking and calm her, but it was of little use. Droplets formed in the corner of her eyes as she said, "Neither is our friendship or community." "Because our tradition is what holds us all together," the Sare said with a nod.
so their tradition is friendship and community, but they hate this one guy.
Yes. Obviously. Weren't you even paying attention?
Absolutely.
Jin, Morningstar said, tugging at her ear. "It's okay. I'm sure we can work something out." Oh, wait, that's the guy's voice. Whatever. The Sare said nothing.
Early anyway. So.
Yeah. The Sare said nothing to that and only held up his chin and steeled his gaze. Jin sniffled again and with a little encouragement released herself from Morningstar and rolled off like caught into her hooves. Morningstar stood up, draping a wing over her back to assist, but she gently pushed him away, hanging her head. For just a moment the Sare scowled a little deeper. "Come," he said, and brought the hood back over his head. He reached under his cloak and retrieved another, and said, "There's much for us to discuss." Jin almost staggered forward, trepidatiously. I think that's spelled wrong. Trepidatious is that a C or a T?
It's a T.
Okay, then never mind. I have been spelling it wrong my whole life then. um, but Morningstar kept her going. "Everything will be okay," he said, reaching for his own cloak hanging on the near wall. "You're staying here, Morningstar," the Sare said. He blinked. "What?" The Sare flicked the extra cloak and tossed it over Jin. Hold on, I'm trying to turn the fucking light on. It's so dark in here right now. There we go. The Sayer flicked the extra cloak and tossed it over Jin, pulling her his way. "This is between me and my daughter," he said. "It's none of your concern. I'll be back to talk with you later." "What?" he asked again, dumbfounded. "How is this none of my concern?" "What's between me and my daughter has nothing to do with you." "Father," Jin murmured. Morningstar frowned. "What, you mean this has nothing to do with me?" he exclaimed. "This has everything to do with me." "You will stay in your hollow until I say otherwise," he barked. "You'd best go back to bed." "No," Morningstar said, running up to him. Sir Sayer, with all due respect, his next
Sure,
word
there.
fell. Sir Sayer. His next word fell deaf as his voice was torn from his tongue, and with a heavy smack as he stumbled backwards and almost lost his footing.
His next word fell deaf as his voice was torn from his tongue
With a heavy smack, yes.
with a
And he
heavy
stumbled.
smack.
So somebody smacked him right in the tongue.
Ah, sorry.
Jin gasped and reached up to pull down the stairs raised to a "Father," she yelled. "How dare you?" "Quiet," he hissed at her, grabbing her hoof so hard she squealed. She glared back at Morningstar, showing his fangs, and said, "You will stay here until I say otherwise. Is that not clear?" Morningstar rubbed at his jaw. The dizziness in his head quickly subsided, then he turned up to glare at the stallion, rising up onto his hooves. His wings slowly expanded to full length. "Sir Sayer, let me speak." The Sayer said nothing and turned to leave, dragging Jin behind. He grabbed the drape and was about to walk straight through it. She squeaked, "Morningstar!" His wings clapped, and he bolted after them. "Sir Sayer, please!" A hoof, thick cloth, darkness marred by a stinging, pressing red. The world collapsed on top of him. He tripped, wood breaking with a loud snap, a cry, open air, and he fell. That was like 6 different sentences, by the way.
I want to be on the edge of my seat, but
You're not captivated by this story?
so he got punched by someone and fell, and in spite of the fact that he has wings, that's a big deal.
Yeah, because
Because it's
fucking
drama.
why not?
I feel like
Okay.
that's like this what this whole story is about. Just fucking why not?
We are seriously getting close to the end here. This is the climax, all right,
Oh
Red?
god,
You
thank
gotta
God.
pay attention. I know you're excited, but try to contain it while I finish this. Um, mm,
I'm all shivery and sweaty and pale because I'm excited about the story.
I'm sweaty only because it's like 90 degrees outside and it's fucking hot in here. It was all over so quickly he could barely register what had actually happened. All he knew was that he was falling, and his first thought was that it should not have been taking this long. His second thought that was a click that brought forth a surge of adrenaline. His wings fought to expand, but he found them ensnared. The heavy drape that had hung over his hollow now entangled him, and he battled with it as it tumbled through the air. A burning sensation bore into him wherever it could as he tore at the drape with his hooves, and an unprecedented light did its best to blind him, but he shoved the pains aside and found a gap in the drape and threw it off his head breathlessly. One of the Kale's trees rushed at him. He tried to yell again, but his lungs were spent and he slammed his eyes shut and threw his hooves over his face. There was a resounding series of snaps as he plummeted into the branches, breaking and tumbling his way through them all until he hit a particularly fat one. He slammed into it, bounced off, and fell the rest of the way into the Kale. He ended up cocooned inside the thick drape, which now protected him from the unrelenting rays of the noon. Dirty water seeped into it and soaked his chest. He moaned, rocking his head gently back and forth until he accidentally submerged his face into the shallow water and gagged. The jolt caused him to slam his face into the muddy bottom, where he rose and gasped for breath. So much adrenaline was surging through him that he couldn't tell if anything was broken, but he didn't care much about that. He didn't care about that, nor about the cuts and bruises he undoubtedly had. He reached up and pulled the drape off of him, and again faced the wrath of the noon rays, and again he pushed himself to bear them and rose unsteadily into his hooves. He hunched over and greedily inhaled the air. The Kale water rippled all around them, but gradually came to settle, and he was met with a curious look. His face, but covered in what? I'm going to read that again because I think I might have missed something. The Kale water rippled all around him, but gradually came to settle, and he was met with a curious look. His face, but okay, he was looking at his reflection. His face, but covered in mud. But he ignored himself
Why
and
is that
peered.
curious?
I
It's like,
don't
oh, I
know.
fell into water with dirt
What?
beneath it.
No,
Now there's
derp, derp,
mud.
derp. But he ignored himself and peered deeper into the
How long?
reflection.
How many paragraphs has this been so far?
Like a lot.
Is this all just him standing up?
Of the paragraphs of him like falling and all this shit.
Yeah.
There's one, two, three, four, five, six. About six. I mean, there's more after that, but that it's six until he stands up. Um, blah, 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 blah. But he ignored himself and peered deeper into the reflection and saw the cusp burning angrily at him. Is the cusp the sun? I don't know. That's weird. He squinted and saw the broken railing off the topmost section of the scaffold. His wings twitched. Thinking quickly, he grabbed the water-soaked drape and threw it over himself. Its coolness suppressed the stinging rays, and when he looked up, his newfound mask also did. Oh, there's the mask.
What? Read it
Uh,
again.
when he looked up, his newfound mask also did its best to protect him. I assumed the mask from the mud. But his wings needed room
Talk
to
about
move.
an anticlimax. The whole story was leading up to him just splashing mud on his face.
Fucking evidently, I guess.
I'm gonna have such a rant for this when I'm done.
Good. I don't want to be the only one who hated it. I don't want to because I feel like I felt like I was wrong after President said he liked it, but now I feel like I'm right.
So what's all this then?
Oh, hey, Sock.
Story time. Story time.
We are almost
jeez.
done with this story. A weight formed in his throat and he swallowed it. And after a few experimental flaps, he lifted himself into the air. Slowly he rose, keeping himself tall and slender, holding the drape over his head. Jin, the Sare, and a few other cloaked figures were already a third of the way down the scaffold. They immediately spotted him. The figures started shouting things, the goddess, the stars, about how what they saw before them was clear evidence of whatever claims they had, and about their own safety and tradition. It all fell delf to Morningstar. Thoughtlessly, he launched himself at the group, to the gentle figure trying to push herself to him, and the figures responded by brandishing wooden poles and lashing out. It's fucking Beauty and the Beast now.
He's
He
got
dodged.
blood all over him. Just think
I,
about how
I
horrifying
forgot.
it must look.
And he has wings. How horrible. How horrifying. He dodged their swipe and flew beneath the scaffold. Another thought, and he threw himself at one of the trusses holding the scaffold upright. Again, and the whole section swayed. The voices shouted again as he slammed into the truss a third time, and the whole thing buckled and snapped. The path above collapsed like a trap door, spilling the figures onto the level below. Bodies screamed and tumbled and hissed with burning. Morningstar. Wait, they all get burned too.
I
How
don't
to get
know.
burned? How to get
Someone
burned?
just keep reading.
Morningstar deftly swooped down and plucked a slender figure from the air before she could hit the scaffold, and spared no time, darting to the opposite end of this air. What the fuck? No wonder I was so confused. Okay, when I was reading the story the first time, Morningstar and Jin confused me because I got their genders mixed up all the time.
Right.
Morningstar sounds like a boy or a girl's name, and Jin sounds like a boy's name,
And also a girl's name.
and also a girl's name. But right here, Morningstar is given it's Morningstar deftly swooped down and plucked a slender figure from the air before she could hit the scaffold. And
We
it
know
sounds
who the
like
slender figure is. Just tell us.
it's Jin, yeah.
Good.
But anyways, it spared no time, darted to the opposite end of the series. The Series.
Sock,
Whatever.
I'm angry at you for coming in late because you made us suffer through this alone.
I what?
You should have been
It's
here.
been.
I shirk all responsibility. You can't prove a thing.
You should have borne the pain of the weight, the responsibility of the story has given us. Keep reading, Alex. Finish us off.
We are so close to being done.
Okay.
He lowered them both onto the scaffold, gripping onto Jin in a tight embrace. Before she could even get a word in, he pressed his lips into hers until his breath left him. Jin, he rasped. Save it, she rasped. They both are rasping, apparently. Oh, save it. I've been smoking too much.
I love you so much, Jed.
Wiping the already caked mud from his face with a warm smile. Oh, it's beneath the mask. Oh, get it? Well, get it, Red? That's beneath the mask. It's his face. Her next thought was interrupted by the
Suddenly the story becomes a tragedy. He accidentally makes him burn alive.
Her next thought was interrupted by the scaffold shaking with the surgency of hooves. What the fuck?
A surgency.
She repositioned her cloak and said, "They're coming, and there'll be no saving us. We have to move." "Where do we go?" Morningstar asked, helping her stand. "The only safe place for us I can think of is up." They stared at each other. The hoofsteps grew more profound, and the shouting was returned. What the fuck? It's suddenly in fucking present tense now.
It's becoming more surgent.
Jin smirked. "Think they can get my think? Oh wait, this is the girl. Think you can get my wish after all?" "I don't know how far away the cusp is," he said, and he gulped. "But we don't have a choice, do we?" She kissed him before Morningstar leapt into the air, awkwardly holding the drape above his head. Jin precariously crawled over the railing with some words of encouragement, jumped and caught her. And he caught her. There was a furious shout from the group of figures, but they were already away. Morningstar beat his aching, burning wings furiously and flew upwards. All four of his legs wrapped around Jin and hers around his. That sounds like they're fucking like Gumby figures.
Like a
Just
pair
like
of
twisted around each
intoxicated
other.
octopi.
Exactly. Holding on to each other for dear life, Jin tried her best to help support the drape. But as they steadily rose within the untouched walls of the series, it became clear to her it was too much. Morningstar blinked when the weight fell off him, and then again he tensed with intense pain. What? His fur hissed and stringed him, but it was fleeting as Jin quickly tossed her cloak over both their heads. "I can't see the cusp," he rasped, staring up at the fabric blocking his view. "Doesn't matter," Jin said. She kissed him again. "Just keep going. You can do it." Minutes passed by excruciatingly slow. Fucking tell me about it. They eventually came to rise alongside the walls of the series, with Jin's back against it as she occasionally pushed back with a leg just to make sure it was still there. Morningstar's wings beat ceaselessly, but by the smell he knew they were dying. What the fuck? He didn't know how long they'd hold them aloft, but he just kept pushing himself until he couldn't anymore. And when the pain became too much and the ligaments under his skin burned apart, he cried and Jin screamed, and they both fumbled over. Something soft pushed into his side, and then he blacked out.
The end.
No, there's three more paragraphs. Just let me finish.
How does... Well, wait.
I'm going to
How
punch
do
you in the face off.
ligaments burn?
Save all questions.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
I'm so close to being done. He slowly came back beneath the trunk of a grand tree, and with branches that expanded overhead impossibly so and were so thick he couldn't see any of the sky. Clearly his vision returned, and he saw no walls confining him. There was no cut under his back, but instead cool and refreshing grass. He found he was so fatigued he couldn't move and gazed out, where an expansive rolling field of grass raced out in all directions. He glanced up and saw the evening moon and the sea of stars that took his breath away. The evening moon shined at him with immense comfort, whispering winds into his ears that he was safe. What? Morningstar slowly tilted his head and found Jin at his side, exhausted and fast asleep. The only thing he could think to do was blow her a kiss before exhaustion overcame and he joined his love in sleep. The end.
So they escaped.
Yeah.
So all they have to do is just cover themselves in mud for the rest of their lives.
Pretty much.
Okay, so I think I got it. They actually live in like this big cylindrical hollow in the ground, a hole, and they live along the walls of the hole.
The lining of it, yeah.
And the cusp is like the top of the hole.
Right.
I have no idea why they wouldn't just find like a nice little cave where they don't have to worry about the sun shining down and killing them.
I think it's because you don't ask questions. How about that?
A giant
Am I gonna have to be disappear now?
captive?
No, it's just where they live. It's just this one guy, Morningstar, is the first. I assume they're bat ponies.
Parisian.
To have wings.
There's
And
a
so
prison
everyone-
in a more ancient part of the world where men are thrown to suffer and
Christ.
die.
I knew it. I fucking knew you were gonna make it. I knew you were gonna.
What is that from?
Dark Knight Rises.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Damn it! Now it makes so much sense now. Well, I know it doesn't, but you know. Okay, so first of all, that freaking word "ser" or whatever the hell it was.
There's a lot of variations.
Yeah,
on it.
the Sar, the Ser, the Cerisians, the Ser, as in the name Ser, and then
The reason I thought it was Ceresians the first time I saw it.
why
but
the
it's
hell would they live in a
spelled-
giant pit if
spelled
none
like
of them?
There's Zion, so that's why I was saying it like that.
Why the hell would they live in a giant pit if none of them have wings? Like, what do they even do?
I
Did they just-
don't-
What do they do? Where do they get their?
I don't
We're
fucking
just gonna
know.
have the Mystery Science Theater this. You know, it is. I should tell myself it's just a fanfic and just relax. But I can't. I can't relax because none of this makes any sense. This story just twists and turns in around on itself until it becomes a giant Ouroboros of a fanfic that just eats itself until nothing makes sense anymore.
That seems like a very apt description, yes.
And then, like, God,
Yeah.
the characters were so filled with cliches. They're saying they love each other every 5 seconds. Even if I love someone with all my heart, I'd be like, okay, back off. We're getting a little weird here. You know, we know they love each other. You don't have to keep saying it. And the whole basics of the story is silly because it's about a guy trying to be in love with a girl because their dad doesn't like him because
It's it's
fuck
it's
Frankenstein.
uh it's Romeo and Juliet, but not interesting or well written at all.
Yeah. Uh, and God,
Hmm.
it I-
Systemic problems.
see, this is. I told you my review was just going to be a bunch of confused muttering, and here it is, guys. This is my review of the story. Just me making these because my brain is
I believe there's
shorting
a
out right
trope
now.
for that.
Yeah,
It's called angerish.
and then like what the. It doesn't use the prompt very well at all because the whole story leads up to him getting a bunch of mud on his face. Oh wow, there's a
Yeah,
mask.
that was the mask. Like,
Woo!
oh god, we gotta. I forgot about the fucking mask thing. Mud. He's got mud. Boom, mask.
And then he
Done.
gets rid of
Submit.
it, and then like okay, so now they just have to wear mud masks for the rest of their freaking lives.
Cause you know.
Because
Well, at least they'll be safe from the predator.
that's true. They this guy should write a sequel to this story about them fighting the predator, and
I
he will
once
redeem
I
himself.
And then they never get to the chopper.
I never. I once tried to write a romance fic about Trixie falling in love with a predator from Predator.
And what happened?
Basically I never actually finished it, but what it was gonna be is that Trixie was in Manhattan just like dicking around, trying to like do whatever, and then suddenly a predator just shows up, like somehow getting teleported from Earth or wherever. And she's like, "Holy shit, who's this?" And he just like growls at her and kills a pony. And she's like, "Holy shit, you're awesome!" And then she starts hanging out with him, and like eventually, like inexplicably falls in love with him. And all he ever does is growl at her. That was gonna be the entire story. And,
I
and
would have I would have read that.
they were gonna
instead
go
of this
around.
story.
They were gonna go around Manhattan while he just like killed everyone.
But oh god, this story I kind of wish we hadn't picked this one now because I was like, this is gonna be so bad it's good. But no, it's so bad that it was just
It's so
that it
bad,
hurt
it's
my
bad.
soul. I don't know. I can't even think of what to say. It just sort of speaks for itself, you know.
It's not it. It's bad.
It's bad.
It's
just
very bad.
Who wrote this?
I don't know.
We need to know who is responsible for
I
this.
don't know, but if I was guessing, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way if he happens to be listening, but it kind of reminds me, it feels very similar to a lot of the other stories I've read by Tactical Rainbow. It sounds like his kind of story. Because he writes a lot of fics about, like, forbidden romance type stuff. Sort of. I mean, I feel like I've seen that in some of his other write-off fics, but, and again, I don't mean that in disparaging against him, but it sounds like his kind of story. But
Yeah,
maybe it's not. I don't fucking know.
I'm sure this guy can write a good story, but I don't see this one winning.
I
If it does, then I'll eat my tail.
If it does, I'm just gonna probably cry myself to sleep.
So, okay, that was Rebel Angels.
Don't go read it
Don't
because
read
I
it.
already read it for you
Yeah,
in,
Seattle's
in,
Angels. We read it so you don't have to.
in an excruciatingly long segment. I read it the whole fucking thing.
The whole damn
This
thing.
fucking I keep was checking my comments or my notifications periodically, and this fucking guy, this one dude on Reinhardt, keeps commenting like over, and he's commented probably like 25 times. And finally, somebody was just like replied to one of his comments. It just says, "Get the fuck out." Which
Oh, is this that one? That one
yes,
guy was
the one
okay.
guy who continues to comment over and over again.
Is he the guy who like is an actual Nazi and wanted the Teutonic Knights to kill all the ponies or something?
No, he's the guy who was he was saying something about, I don't know, he's commented more than anybody else. And now he keeps talking about me, the author, like, oh, I don't know why the author's getting so defensive over this. He should be pleased that there's such a stimulating political debate going on in the comments. And I was like, are you fucking
Is that
kidding
what
me?
they call it?
Are you fucking kidding me? But I feel like he's just baiting me into commenting back, so I'm just gonna ignore him now. But for the most
Take
part,
the high road. Take the
Yeah.
high road.
it's the comment section is fucking silly by this point. It's completely
Rebel
devolving in
Angels did not
madness.
take the high road. Rebel Angels dragged us through the mud, literally.
And then we got it. Then we got a mask or some shit. I don't fucking know, man.
Some crap, I don't know. And then the way it kept jumping between whether or not they were all going to burn to death in the sun or not. At least we were able to figure out what the hell the kale was. Wait, no, we didn't figure out what the kale was.
We did. We figured out it was like a river.
But they
wait.
keep saying that they like look into the kale, and it's only like an inch deep. So
What the? So it's a stream, a creek.
it's just a puddle at the bottom of their giant pit.
It's a big muddy puddle.
Big as
That's
that-
the kale.
yeah. All the lovers go there to have their liaisons, and it's just this giant mud pit with like crabs in it.
Lewd picture of rarity? What the No, that's the picture from Fighting is Magic. Deluxe? You jackass. It's not lewd. But anyways,
What?
I was reading the Skype comments. Sorry. Somebody was commenting on me, what's the word? Complimenting me on my Adventure Time poster, and then he said I had a lewd picture of Rarity, and it's the Fighting is Magic poster of, like, I don't know if you can see it, but it's Rarity and Twilight.
It's not lewd.
I know, it's not lewd at all. They're just sitting there.
Well, they're
Anywho,
naked as ponies do, but
well, yeah, but so is Cinnamon Bun. But you don't think Cinnamon Bun is lewd?
well, he's somebody's fetish somewhere.
I really don't want to go look up Cinnamon Bun porn. Like, that's the last thing I want to see. But we are way the hell over time.
Adventure Time Rule 34.
No, only Cinnamon Bun.
Only Cinnamon Bun.
And Cinnamon Bun and Peppermint Butler.
So I hope Alex's reading entertained you, and I hope my review convinced you to never read this story.
Yes, I'm with you on that one.
In conclusion,
Exactly. I should probably end the stream.
wait, what was that